Hello, everyone. I'm the storyteller. Tonight, I'll tell you a story that drips like salt water through plaster, creeping where it shouldn't, into drains, mirrors, even your sleep. Most who brushed against it chalk it up to urban legend, just workplace gossip passed around graveyard shifts. But I know better, because I mop the floors where it lives. It began in a dental office after hours. Just another cleaning job, just another paycheck under buzzing fluorescent lights. But some buildings aren't built on concrete. Some rest on bargains made long before you or I were born. And when the tide beneath those bargains starts to rise, the walls can't hold. They gave me rules. Rules to keep the water out. Rules to keep him bound. But rules rust, and once they fail, you learn what it means to scrub floors that breathe, to empty buckets that whisper your name. So sit back, listen for the faint rush in the pipes behind your walls, and learn what happens when the old man of the sea remembers you. And whatever you do, don't let go. After my uncle died, I took the first job that would have me. I wasn't drowning in debt, wasn't clawing through divorce papers, nothing like that. I just didn't have a center anymore. He'd raised me after my mom went off, and with him gone, the little town I'd grown up in didn't feel like it had room for me. That's how I wound up running a floor buffer through Bayou Smiles Dentistry off Highway 90 at 2 in the morning. When the woman on the phone told me the job paid $22 an hour, no interview, no background check, just show up and keep it clean, I didn't ask questions. I should have. She told me to ask for Dr. Finch, said he'd give me the guidelines. Didn't say rules, guidelines. Like it wasn't company policy, just something floating, older than OSHA, older than insurance forms. First night. The place smelled like fluoride and stale coffee. Lobby lights dimmed to half strength, casting the waiting room fish tank in an eerie blue glow. Dr. Finch was smaller than I expected. Hair neat, shirt pressed, smile stretched just a little too wide. He didn't shake my hand, just handed me a laminated sheet. I still got that sheet. If you ever take a job like this, listen to me. You'll want to keep it in your pocket. You'll want to check it more than the time. It said, 1. Always mop the lobby floor first. Do not look directly into the aquarium while doing so. 2. Do not begin cleaning before 11:11. Do not remain past 4:44 a.m. 3. If you hear water running, locate the source immediately. If no source is found, recite out loud, "I return what is not mine." 4. The exam rooms must be cleaned in numerical order. Never skip a room, never reverse the sequence. 6. Room 3's chair must never be fully reclined. Leave it 2 notches upright. 7. If you smell brine, cease all work and stand still until it fades. 8. Do not answer the phone. It will ring. At the bottom, -DF. He said it like it was normal, like any other office rule sheet. Then he left, locked the door behind him. I laughed it off at first. The place was empty. Dental chairs lined up like strange machines waiting for something that wasn't teeth. I started with the mop, like it said. Didn't look at the fish tank, but I felt it. The sway of water. The way it hummed different than a normal filter system, like the tank itself was breathing. Halfway across the lobby tile, mop sloshing, I heard it, the gurgle of water running, like somebody left a faucet full open. Restroom sinks? Checked. Dry. Sterilization bay? Nothing. Janitor's closet? Just a mop bucket. The sound kept moving, like a trickle behind the walls, like it was following me. I remembered Rule 3. I return what is not mine. Felt stupid whispering it, but I did. And the sound stopped. Not faded, stopped, cut off clean, like someone muted a track.
I broke the first rule by accident. Couldn't help it. Mop water sloshed, my eyes flicked up, and I caught the tank. It wasn't fish. Not the kind you'd expect in a dentist's waiting room anyway. There weren't goldfish or guppies. There weren't even fish you could name. Silver shapes, scales like hammered metal, eyes dark and bottomless. They didn't dart or swim. They waited, pressed against the glass, watching me. I froze. Breath fogged the pain. And then one of them, the biggest, shifted shape. Not a fish anymore, but a face. My uncle's face, water warped, mouth working like he wanted to tell me something. I dropped the mop, looked away so hard my neck popped, heart thudding. When I turned back, just fish again, or whatever they were. I stuck to the rules after that. Cleaned room 1, then 2, then 3. In room 3, I almost forgot the chair rule. Almost let it click full recline while dusting the headrest. I caught myself, brought it back up 2 notches, and I swear the whole room sighed. Not air vents, not pipes, a sigh, like relief. At 3:10 a.m., the office phone rang. Not a chirp, not a quick burst, a long dragging ring like old rotary phones. I stood in the hall, mop in hand, staring at it through the glass. It rang and rang. Rules said don't answer, but it had caller ID. And on the little glowing screen it said, my name. Not the house line, not unknown, not private, my name. And underneath a timestamp, 11:11. But the clock on the wall said 3:10. By 4:30 I was pacing. Every creak sounded wet, like waterlogged boards. Brine smell in the air, faint, enough to make me freeze until it passed. At 4:44 on the dot, I was outside. Key turned, door locked, heart pounding. Dr. Finch was waiting in the parking lot, engine idling in his car, window rolled down just enough to speak. You followed the guidelines? I nodded. Good. He didn't smile this time. You'll do fine. Just don't improvise. Then he drove off, tail lights fading into the dark. I went home, scrubbed my hands raw, but the smell wouldn't leave. Salt water. Old, brackish, like something dredged up from a place it shouldn't be. And in the back of my mind, I swear I still hear water running where there aren't pipes. If you ever get a job like this, any job where the pay's too high and the rules are too strange, listen to me. Don't assume it's a joke. Don't assume you'll figure it out later. The rules are there because something is watching. And tonight, I think it learned my name. The second night. The second night, I went in steady. Told myself I wasn't going to spook like a kid at a haunted hayride. Still, the air hit me wrong the second I unlocked the door. Humid, thick, like a storm was hiding inside the walls. I set the mop bucket down, read the laminated sheet 3 times over. 8 rules, no more, no less. And I swore I'd followed them to the letter.
I started with the lobby. Didn't look at the tank, even though I swear those silver shapes were pressing harder against the glass. I could feel them crowding there, like the tank was smaller than it looked. Halfway across the tile, I heard it again, the running water. This time it sounded closer, like a faucet turned full bore in the staff kitchen. I checked. Nothing. Bone dry. I return what is not mine, I said, voice shaky, but the sound didn't stop. Instead, the lights flickered. The aquarium bubbled hard like it was boiling. I repeated it louder. I return what is not mine. Only then did it stop. That was when I realized the rules weren't suggestions. They had teeth. Exam rooms went smooth. 1, then 2. In room 3, I kept the chair 2 notches upright, just like it said. Wiped down the tray, cleaned the sink. But when I glanced at the mirror over the chair, there was condensation streaked across it. beads of water running like the room had just steamed up. It spelled something. Not words at first, just smears. Then letters. Crooked. Backwards. Stay. I rubbed it clean until my rag was dripping, heart hammering. The condensation was gone like it never existed. At 1:30, the phone rang. Same long, dragging tone. I didn't look at the caller ID this time, just gripped my mop handle tight and let it ring, but it didn't stop. One ring stretched into another, until the sound filled the whole office like a siren. Then, just as I thought my head would split, it cut off. Silence so thick I could hear my blood rushing in my ears. Around 3, I caught the smell. Brine, not faint this time, heavy, choking, like a cooler full of shrimp left in the sun. I froze, just like the rule said, didn't move, and in the stillness, I heard footsteps. Bare, wet footsteps slapping down the hall toward me. I didn't dare turn, didn't breathe. The smell receded. The steps faded. Only then did I move again. I left at 4:44 sharp. Outside, Dr. Finch was in his car again. Same spot, engine idling. He didn't ask if I followed the rules this time, just stared through the glass at me with eyes that didn't blink often enough. "You'll get used to it," he said finally. I wanted to ask him what the hell was in that building, but his window was already rolling up. The next day, I went to the parish library. I wasn't looking for ghosts or demons. I wanted plumbing diagrams, blueprints, some way to explain the water sounds. But when I asked the librarian about Bayou Smile's history, she gave me a look. Tight smile. Told me the building used to be a boat repair warehouse back before the levee rerouted the bayou. Said some folks drowned in there. Said the place always held water wrong. That phrase stuck with me. Held water wrong. Third night, I cracked. I looked.
The fish, or things, weren't silver anymore. They were faces. Dozens. Some I knew, some I didn't. One of them was me. Mouth opening and closing like they were speaking words I couldn't hear. I dropped the mop and stumbled back, whispering the rule over and over, though it wasn't the right one. I return what is not mine. The tank bubbled. One of the faces pressed so close its lips split into scales. I backed into the hall and didn't return until the brine smell chased me away. These aren't just rules. They're chains, boundaries. Whoever or whatever made them knew exactly what they were keeping out, or in. But here's what chills me worse than the water sounds or the phone calls. Every night I work there, the rules feel less like guidelines to follow and more like promises I already made. On my 3rd week, Dr. Finch told me I'd have a partner. Said it keeps people from quitting. Her name was Casey. About my age, mid-30s, restless eyes, chewing gum like it was keeping her alive. She laughed when she saw the laminated sheet. What, this some kind of hazing with the fish tanks haunted? I tried warning her, told her the rules weren't jokes, but she just shrugged. I don't scare easy. She would. First night working together, she went straight for the aquarium, pressed her face right up to the glass, blew a foggy circle with her breath. "Creepy-ass fish," she muttered. "Don't even look real." I hissed at her to stop, told her the first rule clear, don't look. She just grinned. What's gonna happen? They bite me through the glass? When she pulled back, her reflection didn't. Her reflection stayed, forehead pressed to the glass, eyes rolling white. Casey laughed. "Nice trick." I nearly dragged her away by the arm. The reflection blinked one last time before melting into silver scales. By midnight, Casey was bored. She said she'd clean the rooms out of order to save time. She started with room 5. I begged her not to, told her the rooms had to be done 1, 2, 3 straight through. She waved me off. It's just a dentist's office, man. She was still dusting the light when the air changed, heavy like underwater pressure. The overhead bulb dimmed, then flickered blue, not fluorescent blue, deep sea blue. She froze, rag in hand. What the hell? And then water started dripping from the ceiling. Not a leak, not a burst pipe, just water appearing from plaster, falling in slow drops. It smelled like brine. I shoved her out. Room 1, start in room 1. She cursed but followed me. The dripping stopped the moment she touched the chair in room 1. At 2 o'clock, the phone rang again. Casey grabbed for it before I could stop her. Hello? Her face went slack. Mouth hung open. I ripped the receiver from her hand, but there was no dial tone, no voice, but just the sound of rushing water, endless and deep, like a tide roaring in my ear. I slammed it down. Casey blinked like waking from a nap. They said my name, she whispered. Around 3:15, the brine smell came strong. I froze, told Casey to do the same. But she snorted, not playing statue with you. She kept wiping the counter. That's when the lights in the hall filled with water. Not broke, not shorted, filled like the bulbs were aquariums. Shapes swam inside them. Casey dropped her rag, eyes wide. Okay, she said, okay, I'll stop. But the smell stayed. The wet footsteps started, coming down the hall. I whispered, don't move. She didn't listen. She bolted into room 3. I caught up to her just as she dropped into the chair. It was fully reclined. The one rule I'd been most careful about, the one I knew not to break. Casey lay back, panting, staring at the ceiling. For a second, nothing happened. Then her reflection in the overhead mirror moved wrong, smiled while she didn't. The chair groaned like metal under pressure. I yanked her upright, 2 notches, hands shaking. The sigh came again. Relief, almost human. Her reflection fell back in line. But for a heartbeat, I swear it wasn't her. We finished in silence. She followed the order after that, wouldn't touch the phone, wouldn't look at the tank. When we left at 4:44, Finch was waiting, as always. He looked at Casey, then at me. She broke them, didn't she? I didn't answer. He sighed, long and low. They always do. Casey still comes to work. She shows up, keeps quiet, does her share. But she doesn't chew gum anymore, doesn't hum to herself like she did. And sometimes when she walks ahead of me, her footsteps don't sound like rubber soles on tile. They sound wet. 4th week on the job, Finch told me I could use the staff locker room if I wanted to keep extra clothes. The lockers were mostly empty, except one at the far end, padlock hanging open, like it had been waiting for me to notice. Inside were 3 things. 1, a half-empty bottle of cheap mouthwash. 2, a stack of paper towels folded into a bundle. 3, a notebook, cover warped like it had been soaked and dried. The notebook was what mattered. Most of the pages were ruined, smeared with blue ink, like waves had rolled across them. But some writing survived. Scrawled in big, shaky letters on the first page I could read, "Rules don't protect you. Rules are prayers." I flipped faster, hungry for anything. The tank is not decoration, it's the threshold. Don't let it see you back. Water that runs without a source means he is listening. The phone is his voice through glass. If you answer, you are named. Chairs are thrones. He likes them reclined because that's how the drowned lie. Smell of brine means he is walking. Don't draw his eyes.
At the bottom of one ruined page, barely legible, was a name. Nereus. Casey caught me with the notebook during break. "What's that?" she asked, gumless jaw tight. I closed it quick. "Just the old cleaning logs." But she didn't buy it. "You're jumpier every night. Something's in this place, isn't it?" I didn't answer. Later, when she thought I wasn't looking, she lingered at the aquarium again. This time, she didn't grin. She just stared, lips moving like she was repeating something. And for a second, I swear the fish turned to face her. Every single one. That night, the tank sounded different. The bubbles were rhythmic, pulsing like a heartbeat. And when I mopped near it, I heard words in the water. Not English, not anything I recognized. But Casey whispered, "I understand you." I yanked her back. "Don't talk to it." She looked at me with wide, wet eyes. "He's not angry. He's old. He just wants to be remembered." Her voice didn't sound like hers. In room 2, the mirror fogged again. This time, the letters were clearer. Not rules, rights. I scrubbed until the words vanished, but I couldn't erase the truth of it. At 2:30, the phone rang. Casey looked at me, then at the receiver. She didn't reach for it this time, but her reflection in the glossy countertop leaned forward and picked it up anyway. I nearly vomited. She whispered, "I hear the tide." Then the reflection dropped the phone and both images snapped back in sync. When we left at 4:44, Finch was waiting, his car idling, headlights painting the lot white. He rolled down his window. "Found the notebook, didn't you?" I froze. He gave a small smile. "Don't worry, everybody does." "Who wrote it?" Finch's smile thinned. A man who thought he could bargain. He didn't last. Then he rolled the window back up and drove off. The notebook's still in my locker. I don't know why I keep it. Maybe because the words feel older than me, older than his office, older than the bayou. Rules are prayers. That line won't leave me. Because prayers aren't just for asking. They're for binding. And the thing bound here, it has a name now. Nereus. The notebook burned a hole in my locker all week. By Saturday, I couldn't stand it. I went back to the parish library, this time with a plan. I asked for building permits, levy records, old maps. The librarian gave me a look again. Same polite, pinched smile. That building's been a dozen things. Warehouse, machine shop. Briefly, a church group rented it. She tapped the nails against the desk. But folks don't stay long. I pressed. Why? She leaned in just enough to whisper. Water don't flow right on that land. Then she went back to smiling like she hadn't said a thing. The maps told more truth than she wanted to. Before the levee project, a finger of the bayou curved right up under where Bayou Smile stands now. A slipway, place where boats slid into the water. The warehouse back then was owned by a fishing company. Notes in the records. Multiple accidents, drownings, bodies unrecovered. They closed the slipway in 1948, built the levee in 52. But on the soil map, under water risk, the engineer had scribbled one word: restless. I stopped for a beer that night, nerves frayed. Ended up sitting next to a man older than dust, skinned like driftwood. His name was Mr. Landry. When I mentioned the building, he stopped mid-sip.
"You clean now?" I said, "Yeah," cautiously. He whistled low. "Oh, Lord help you." I asked him what he meant. He stared into his glass. That place was bad before it was built. My daddy told me stories. Men swore the bayou didn't want to be rerouted. Said it carried an old current, old as the Greeks. That word hooked me. Greeks? You mean like Nereus? I asked. He looked me sharp. Too sharp for a drunk old man. He whispered, "Don't name him." Then he finished his beer and walked out without another word. Casey was worse the next shift. She didn't joke anymore, didn't argue, just moved like she was underwater. When she passed the aquarium, the fish or faces moved with her, like following. I asked her if she was okay. She said, "He knows my name now. That means I'm safe." Her voice had no fear in it, just certainty. That scared me more than anything. At 3 o'clock, the water sounds came again, but this time it wasn't phantom. The hall itself flooded, ankle-deep brine pouring from nowhere. I froze. Casey didn't. She waded right in, smiling faintly, whispering words I couldn't catch. I screamed her name, begged her back, but the water receded on its own, leaving the floor bone dry. She stood there, shoes dripping. Her eyes were wrong, like tide pools, dark, moving. When we left, Finch was waiting, as always. This time he got out of the car, walked up slow, hands in his coat pockets. He looked at Casey first, then me. "Don't get clever," he said. I asked what he meant. He leaned close, his breath briny. "You start asking around town, digging into old slips and drownings, you'll end up like the last cleaner. You want that?"
I thought of the ruined notebook. "What happened to him?" I asked. Finn smiled, but not kindly. "He learned too much. The old man likes obedience, not curiosity." Then he turned and got back in his car. The rules are prayers. The notebook was right. But what happens when you pray without faith? Because I don't believe in gods or sea spirits or old men with scales. And yet the bayou keeps whispering his name. Nereus. Monday night, I unlocked Bayou Smiles like usual. Fluorescent hum, that faint dentist office tang of antiseptic. Everything felt normal, until I checked the white binder. Rule 3 wasn't the same. Before it read, "Don't sweep the hall with the aquarium after 2 a.m. Now, do not pass the aquarium at all after 2 a.m. If you must, avert your eyes. Do not acknowledge them." That's not me misremembering. I checked my notes. The words were different. Somebody, or something, changed the rules. Casey barely spoke to me anymore. When she did, it was in riddles. "The water comes in cycles," she whispered while scrubbing instruments. "The old man is kind when you respect his flow, but he punishes those who fight the tide." I asked who told her that. She smiled, eyes glassy. "He tells me himself." Then she hummed something low, guttural, like the sea rolling rocks. I couldn't stand it. I left the room. That night, I kept track of every sound. 12:45, pipes rattle, as if the walls themselves exhale. 1:30, aquarium lights flicker in sequence, left to right like a wave. 2 a.m., sound of water rushing, always behind you, no matter where you stand. 2:15, the whispers start. If you listen, you'll hear your own name carried in them. The rules weren't random. They were aligned with these cycles, like tides. At 2:20, I slipped. I looked straight at the aquarium. The glass was warped, bulging out like something pressed against it. I heard it, clear as day. My name. Evan. The voice came from the water. Bubbles traced the syllables. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but Casey was standing right there, smiling faintly. "You should answer when he calls," she said. Her reflection in the glass didn't match her. It blinked out of sync. When we left, Finch was waiting by the door this time. He didn't even pretend to be casual. "You saw it, didn't you?" he said. I didn't answer. He leaned close, eyes sharp as knives. "Don't speak your name out loud in there. Don't even think it too hard. He only needs it once." Then he shoved a scrap of paper in my hand, torn from some ledger, just one line scrawled in pencil. "Names bind. Silence survives." Back home, I didn't sleep. I searched the name I'd heard from Landry, the one I'd whispered in my notes like a fool. Nereus. Old sea god. The old man of the sea. Not a king, not a tyrant. Something older. He knew all truths, could change his form. Was called truth teller.
But more important, he was bound by rules. In myth, heroes caught him and held on while he changed shapes. Only by enduring could they force him to speak. Rules and bindings, just like Bayou Smiles. Next shift, I tried to warn her. "Casey, whatever you're hearing, it isn't safe. He's using you." She looked up from polishing the tray, eyes shining like they held tidewater. "No," she said. "He chose me. And if you keep resisting, he'll drown you." She reached out, fingers brushing my wrist. Her touch was ice cold, salt slick. And for a second, just one, I swear I saw barnacles growing on her nails. The rules aren't protections. They're bargains. Every sweep, every locked door, every averted gaze, each one isn't to keep him out. It's to keep him satisfied. And Casey isn't afraid anymore because she's already decided to pay the price. I came home from shift half dead, shoes still damp from mop water. I dropped into bed without brushing my teeth, without even eating. At 3:15, I woke to a sound. The bathroom faucet was running. I hadn't touched it. When I walked in, the water wasn't clear. It was brackish, with flecks of algae swirling in the sink bowl. And it whispered. Not loud, not words, just a cadence like breath, forming my name. I shut it off, dried my hands, sat on the couch until sunrise with every light on. At work that night, Casey was waiting by the aquarium. She pulled her sleeve up, showed me her forearm. A circle of dark green bruises, faint but distinct, like fingers had wrapped tight around her. "I didn't fight him," she said. "He gave me this for obedience. It's a sign I belong." I wanted to argue, but the words dried in my throat, because deep down I knew she believed it. And worse, part of me believed her. Rule breach at 1:45. I broke a rule by accident. Rule 5, if you hear rushing water, stand still until it stops. I didn't. I turned my head. The sound was right behind me. The hallway shimmered like heat on asphalt. Then I saw, not water, shapes, twisting, translucent bodies sliding across the tiles. Not fish, not human, something between. They passed straight through me. My chest froze like lungs filled with ice.
Casey shouted from down the hall, "Don't move!" I froze. The rushing stopped. My breath came back ragged, salt-burning. She shook her head. "You're lucky he wasn't watching." Outside, Finch waited again, always waiting. This time, he spoke before I could ask. "He's not confined in there anymore. You let him in the moment you wrote his name." I said, "So what? He'll follow me home now?" Finch's face didn't change. "He already has. You'll see the tide in your walls, in your sleep. The only choice is obedience or surrender."
I demanded, "How do I stop it?" He didn't blink. "You don't. You only hold fast, like the old heroes did. But not many had the stomach for it." That night, I dreamed of water filling my apartment, rising slow, steady. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. In the reflection on the ceiling, I saw him, an old man, bearded, skin like scales. His eyes were the sea, endless and dark. He leaned close, whispering my name. When I jolted awake, my pillow was soaked, my sheets too. But it wasn't sweat. It smelled of salt. The rules were never meant to keep him in. They were meant to keep him patient. But patience runs out. And now the tide is inside my house. When I unlocked the office, I checked the binder like I always do. Rule 5 wasn't there anymore. The line was gone, white page smooth as if it had never been typed. But I knew the rule. Stand still when the water rushes. I carried it in my head anyway. That night, the aquarium lights were already glowing before midnight. That had never happened before. Casey just smiled and said, "He's awake early." At 1:10, the rushing started. Too early, wrong time. I froze in the hallway, mop still in my hand. But this time, it didn't pass. The water sound grew louder, heavier, until I couldn't hear my own thoughts. The air thickened, my ears popped. And then I saw him. Not full, not yet, just pieces. A hand pressed against the glass, fingers too long, a beard drifting like seaweed, scales that glinted in fluorescent light. The water rushed through the hall, but didn't stop. It rose. Cold salt water swallowed my ankles, then my knees. I stumbled back against the wall, choking. The mop floated away, spinning like driftwood. Casey stood at the far end of the hall, dry as bone, watching me, smiling faintly. "You have to endure," she said. "Don't run, don't fight." The water climbed to my chest. My ribs locked. My lungs begged. And then it shifted. He changed before me. First, a writhing fish, scales flashing silver. Then, a lion's head breaching the water, jaws dripping. Then, a serpent, body endless, coiling around the hall. Then, fire, flames that burned underwater, licking at my clothes. Each one roared, hissed, snapped at me. Each one wanted me to flinch, to break. But I remembered Finch's words. Hold fast. I pressed my back against the wall, nails digging into plaster, and I stayed.
Finally, the water stilled. His shapes vanished. And then the voice came. Not in the air, not in my ears, inside me, deep. You know my name, but do you know my hunger? I couldn't answer. I wouldn't. Because if I spoke, he'd take it as permission.
The silence stretched, endless. Then, just like that, the water drained. The hall was dry. My clothes weren't even wet. Only the mop lay broken on the tiles. Casey walked up, her shoes clicking in the silence. "You're stronger than the last one," she said. "He likes that, but it makes you more dangerous too." Her eyes glowed faintly, like tide water catching moonlight. "He'll come harder next time. You should be ready." I faced him, and I survived. But it wasn't victory. It was invitation. The old man knows I can endure, and that means he'll test me again. I hadn't spoken to my sister in weeks. Life, work, exhaustion, excuses stacked high. But that night when I got home, I saw 3 missed calls from her number, and a voicemail. Her voice was thin, distorted. "Evan, why are you whispering my name like that? I can hear you. Stop. Please stop." Except I hadn't called her. At work, Casey was humming again, but this time I recognized the tune. It was a lullaby my mother used to sing. I asked her how she knew it. She tilted her head, eyes flat. "He told me. He likes your bloodline, strong swimmers." The mop handle snapped in my grip. At 1:40, the whispers in the hall weren't mine anymore. They said my sister's name, over and over, soft, gurgling, patient. I clamped my hands over my ears, but it didn't matter. The sound was inside me. Casey pressed her palms to the aquarium glass, sighing like she was listening to a lover. "He's already with her," she whispered. "He doesn't need doors, just names." When we left, Finch was waiting, but not in the car this time. He stood right by the office door, eyes hollow. "Did you answer the calls?" he demanded. I shook my head. "No, but she heard me whispering her name." Finch grabbed my shirt, hauled me close. His breath reeked of salt and iron. "Then he's testing your bindings. He'll use your family, your friends, anyone you've spoken to. If they hear your voice where it shouldn't be, it means he's already reached them." I shoved him off. "So how do I stop it?" His face tightened. "You don't. You only warn them not to answer. Pray they listen." At 3 o'clock, another voicemail came. Not from my sister, from her 6-year-old daughter. "Uncle Evan, there's a man outside the window. He says he knows you. He says to open the door. Should I let him in?" The message ended with the sound of rushing water. He's spreading. It's not just me, not just the office.
Nereus knows my family now, and the rules don't cover them. When I unlocked Bayou Smiles, the binder wasn't on the counter. It was on the floor, pages scattered, some blank, some smeared with water stains. I gathered them up, flipping fast. Rules were missing. Not edited, gone. The page for Rule 7 looked torn out clean, as if it had never existed. Casey walked in behind me, humming low. She bent, picked up a page, and pressed it flat against her chest like a prayer. "They're not rules anymore," she said. "They're just reminders. He decides the rest." At 12:30, Finch showed up.
Not outside, not in the lot. Inside. I nearly dropped my mop when I saw him leaning against the break room door, chewing a toothpick. "You're slipping," he said. "He's bleeding through faster now. Your family won't hold out." I snapped. "Then tell me how to stop it!" Finch's eyes narrowed. "You can't stop it. You can only outlast him. That's the rule nobody writes down." At 1 o'clock, I caught Casey staring at her reflection in the sterilizer glass. But the reflection wasn't her. It blinked too slow. Its mouth was open wide, as if gulping water. When I touched her shoulder, she didn't turn. She whispered, "He says soon I'll breathe for him. Isn't that beautiful?" Her reflection nodded when she didn't. At 1:45, the rushing started again. I froze, waited, counted seconds, but this time it didn't stop. The hall filled, ankle deep, then knee deep. My breath hitched. I checked the binder, flipping frantic. Rule 5 was gone. No instructions left. For the first time since this nightmare began, I had no guidance. The water rose to my chest. Casey watched me drown, smiling faintly. Then Finch grabbed me by the collar, yanked me back toward the supply closet. The water receded as soon as the door shut. "You see now? They don't protect you. They train you to endure." When the rush was over, Finch pressed a wet scrap of paper into my palm. Not from the binder, from something older. The ink was smeared, but I could read the words, "Do not seek his truths. Do not speak his name. Do not believe the silence means safety. The tide always returns." I looked up, shaking. This was never in the binder. Because if you knew it too early, you'd quit, and quitting feeds him faster than fear. The rules aren't rules. They're conditioning, preparing me for something bigger. And Casey isn't resisting anymore. She's waiting. At 11:45, before my shift, my phone rang. My sister's number. When I answered, it wasn't her. It was my niece. Her voice, soft, shaky. "Uncle Evan, I can't sleep. There's water in my room. It's dripping from the ceiling. Mommy says it's not there, but I can see it. He says it's because you broke the rules." The line cut, replaced by rushing. I threw my phone against the wall. At the office, Casey had taped a drawing to the aquarium. A child's drawing, crayons pressed hard into paper. It was my niece's. I recognized her handwriting at the bottom. The drawing showed a man with a beard made of waves, standing outside a house. "Where did you get this?" I demanded. Casey didn't even blink. He showed me. He said she's ready to learn. I cornered Finch in the supply closet, desperate. "He's inside my family now, my niece. Tell me how to pull them out." Finch wouldn't meet my eyes. He just lit a cigarette and let the smoke curl into the flickering light. "You don't pull them out," he said. "Once he's got a voice through them, he's already in. The best you can do is cut the cord." My stomach dropped. What does that mean? He exhaled slow. "Stop answering when they call. Stop listening when they whisper. If you don't, you'll drag them all the way under." At 2 o'clock, the aquarium lights flickered. But instead of fish, the glass showed a bedroom. My niece's bedroom. The same unicorn lamp on her nightstand. She was sitting on the bed, eyes wide, looking right at me. "Uncle Evan," she said through the glass. Her voice bubbled, distorted. "He says you don't have to fight anymore. Just come in. The water's warm." Her reflection shivered, rippled, then warped into Nereus's face, beard flowing, eyes black as the deep. I slammed the mop bucket against the tank. The vision dissolved into water. Casey screamed at me, clutching the glass like I just hurt her. After my shift, my sister texted me, just 4 words. "Why won't you answer?" I deleted the thread. Because Finch was right. Answering feeds him. But the silence feels like betrayal. He's teaching me obedience by forcing me to ignore the voices of the people I love. If I keep answering, they drown. If I keep silent, they hate me. That's the real rule. Not protection, not endurance, just loss. I woke at 6 p.m. to water on my kitchen floor. No leak, no spilled glass, just a thin film of salt water across the tiles, patterned like fish scales. When I blinked, it was gone. I don't trust my eyes anymore. I write everything down, and even the ink smears like it's been dipped in the ocean. Finch met me outside the office tonight. He wasn't smoking, just standing by the back door, his hands shaking. "You're hearing them when you're awake now, aren't you?" I didn't answer. That's how it starts. He stops needing the tank, stops needing the night. Once he's tasted your bloodline, he can seep through any crack in your mind.
I grabbed a shirt. So what do I do? Finch looked hollow. Pray you're not the sponge. Casey was already inside, humming while she cleaned. The hum wasn't any tune I knew. It sounded tidal, rising and falling like waves crashing rocks. When I asked her to stop, she opened her mouth wider than it should go. Far wider. The hum didn't stop. It deepened, became a vibration that rattled my teeth. Inside her throat, I saw water. Actual water, churning like surf against a cabin wall. I dropped the mop. Casey snapped her jaw shut, grinning like she hadn't noticed a thing. Around 1 a.m., I went to refill the mop bucket. The water came out black, thick, smelled of brine and iron. Rule number 2, do not use tap water after midnight. It runs with what he brings. That was written plain as day. I followed it. But this time it didn't matter. Midnight rules had bled backward into the earlier hours. He was rewriting the binder. Casey cornered me in the hallway by the exam rooms. Her pupils were wide, swallowing most of her eyes. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He doesn't punish, he prepares. You'll be clean when he's done with you." Her lips moved, but the voice that followed wasn't hers. It was low, ancient, bubbling like it rose from the floor of the sea. "Little janitor, little breaker of silence, stop resisting. Stop pretending your family isn't already mine." Her mouth didn't close while the words poured out. Water spilled over her chin, dripping onto her uniform, pooling at her feet. I backed away until my shoulders hit the glass of the aquarium. I could feel it vibrating, like something behind it was pounding to get out. Casey took a step closer. Her jaw unhinged wider. Her cheeks stretched. Salt water poured out, soaking the floor. And then, just like that, she collapsed. Her mouth snapped shut. Her body hit the tiles, and she lay there gasping like she'd nearly drowned. I didn't help her. I couldn't. My legs wouldn't move. The rules don't hold anymore. He's not waiting for violations. He's coming through the people. Through Casey. Through my niece. And through me. Because tonight, when I looked in the bathroom mirror, water trickled out of my own mouth while I brushed my teeth. I called out sick. Didn't show up. Didn't text Casey. Didn't answer Finch. I spent the whole day barricaded in my apartment. Towels under the doors, windows latched, TV on static just to drown the sound of running water I keep hearing in the walls. Every time I close my eyes, I see the aquarium, even without being there, like it's burned into my retinas. I drove to the library right before closing, the kind of place nobody bothers with anymore, but the stacks go back decades. Local history didn't tell me much, but the mythology shelves, dusty hardbacks nobody's checked out in years, finally spat up something that fit. Nereus, the old man of the sea, firstborn of Pontus and Gaia, the shapeshifter, the one who speaks prophecy if you can hold him long enough. That's what the Greeks called him, but the descriptions matched. Beard of waves, endless patience, knowledge of all truths. And the part that froze me, he yields answers only when bound. Otherwise, he slips away, leaving nothing but water.
Bound. That's what the rules are. A binding. I went deeper. Page after page. His daughters were the Nereids, 50 sea nymphs who lured sailors to drown. His gift was truth, but only if you endured his transformations. Casey's humming, my niece's voice through the aquarium, the water trickling from my own mouth. All of it was him slipping shapes. Not haunting, hunting. At 3 a.m., someone knocked at my door. Not loud, just 3 soft taps. When I didn't answer, a voice slipped through the crack under the frame. Evan, it's Casey. He wants you to know you don't have to fight alone. He says you'll see your niece again, in the tide. I stayed silent. My throat ached from holding back words. Then the knock came again, this time on the bathroom mirror. I don't even remember walking in there, but the reflection wasn't mine. It was him. An old face, barnacled, beard flowing like kelp, his eyes black pits, his mouth moving without sound. And then water began leaking out of the mirror's edges, dripping into the sink. My phone buzzed at 3:27. Finch's name. Against every instinct, I answered. "Kid," he said, voice raw, panicked. "They never told me it would spread like this. I thought it stayed in the building. But if he's got your blood, he's not bound by walls anymore." "What do I do?" I whispered. Silence. Then, not Finch's voice. "You hold me, janitor. You grip me until I yield, or I take everything you love into the deep." The call ended. I thought the rules were cages. They were. But cages rust. And now the old man of the sea is slipping free. The only way forward is unthinkable. Not running, not silence, not research. I have to grab him and never let go. I showed up for the shift. No barricades, no excuses. If I was going to face him, it had to be here. The binder was gone. The desk where it had always sat was bare, just a rectangle of dust marking its absence. Casey stood by the aquarium, barefoot, her shoes floating inside the tank, floating like fish. She didn't look at me, just whispered, "He's almost free." Finch staggered in late, soaked to the bone. His jacket dripped onto the tiles, salt water pooling around his boots. "I went to the river," he muttered. "Thought maybe I could drown it out. Thought maybe fresh water would burn him out." He laughed, high, broken. "Didn't work. He followed me home. He's in my lungs now." He coughed, spat salt water onto the floor. Casey knelt and wiped it up with her bare hands like it was holy. By midnight, the rules meant nothing. Lights stayed on past their cutoffs. The tap ran black no matter the hour.
The tiles beneath us softened, sagged and broke into ripples. I stepped back, nearly losing balance. The linoleum wasn't solid anymore. It moved underfoot like waves beneath a dock. Casey didn't flinch. She walked across it barefoot, each step sending out circles of water. "He's here," she said softly. "Do you feel it? We're standing on his back." In the exam rooms, the ceiling panels bulged, wet, transparent. I could see silver scales sliding just above them, pressing down like fish trapped behind plastic. One panel burst. A sardine slapped onto the dental chair, flapping wildly before dissolving into water. Finch screamed, "He's thinning the walls!" At 2 a.m., she stripped off her uniform top and pressed her chest against the aquarium glass, whispering words in a language I didn't recognize. Greek, maybe older. The tank responded. The water inside surged, glowing faintly green. For a moment, I saw him. Not his face, just his arm. A massive limb of muscle and barnacle pressing against the glass like testing a hatch. The glass bowed, didn't break, but bowed. Casey moaned like it was intimacy. He pulled me into the break room, clutching my sleeve. "You want to know why we're stuck with this? This office, this janitor gig? It's all bought and paid. The dentist, he made a deal years ago. Cheap land, always clean water lines. But it wasn't clean. It was salt. Salt from down there." He leaned in close. "We're just the mop crew for his covenant. Disposable plugs to keep the old man chained." He wept then, shoulders shaking, and I believed him. At 3 a.m., the power failed. Emergency lights flickered red. The aquarium glowed brighter, as if the blackout gave it strength. Casey turned to me, water streaming from her eyes like tears. "He says it's time. If you want your family spared, you'll take his hand." And then, through the glass, an arm reached, long, knotted with barnacles, dripping endless streams of seawater onto the tiles. It didn't smash the aquarium. It slid through, as if the glass was never there. The floor surged beneath us, waves rising. My mop bucket overturned, swept away into a tide that had no right to exist in a dental office. There's no more waiting, no more rules. He's loose. Tomorrow night, I either hold him until he speaks, like the myths say, or I drown with the rest. At midnight, the dental office was no longer a building. The floor heaved like tide, chairs and cabinets half submerged, papers drifting past like jellyfish. The aquarium had cracked wide open, but instead of draining, it poured more water into the room. The old man of the sea had stepped through. Not all of him, just enough. A torso that stretched impossibly upward, shoulders as broad as storm clouds, beard trailing in tendrils of seaweed and eel. His eyes were caverns. Casey knelt in the water, arms raised, whispering prayers. Finch was gone. I don't know when or how. And I stood knee-deep, shaking, knowing there was only one way left. I lunged. My arms locked around his wrist, barnacled, cold, slick. My fingers sank into ridges of shell and flesh. At once he shifted. The arm became a serpent, scales grinding against my skin. I held. The serpent thrashed, fangs grazing my ear. I held. He twisted again, his flesh aflame, burning hot, skin blistering mine. I screamed, but I didn't let go.
Again, his arm turned to water, slipping through my grip, but I clawed, pulled, dug nails into the current until they bled. Over and over, shape after shape, he tried to shake me. But I remembered the line from the myth. He yields truth only when bound. And I was binding him. Finally, he froze. The water around us stilled. His form coalesced into the bearded old man, eyes endless, voice a hollow thunder. What truth do you seek, janitor? My throat burned. Release my family. Release the girl. His grin split wider than human. That is no truth. That is a plea. Ask what binds me here. My breath caught. What binds you here? His voice shook the tiles loose from the drowned ceiling. A covenant signed in blood and salt. The dentist bartered land for prosperity, anchoring me beneath these waters. Each worker chained by rules is my tether. Each silence kept, each bucket emptied, each body broken in routine. His head tilted, beard dripping into my chest. Break the chain and I sink, keep it and I reign. He offered me his hand. Take up the covenant, rule with me. You'll never want, you'll never lose. Behind him, I saw Casey, her eyes rolled white, her mouth full of seawater. My niece's face flickered in her features, lips whispering my name. I knew the choice. Either bind myself to keep him sealed, or break everything and let him sink. I let go. The office screamed. Glass shattered inward, lights burst. The water surged so high I thought it would tear me apart. Casey shrieked, then vanished beneath the flood. The old man bellowed in rage. Then, like a whirlpool pulling back, he collapsed. His form folded inward, drawn down into the tiles, the water rushing after him like a drain. In seconds, the flood was gone. I stood on dry, ruined linoleum, alone. The office closed a week later. They blamed plumbing, insurance fraud maybe. Casey was never found, Finch either. I moved apartments. My niece doesn't speak of that night. Sometimes I catch her staring at sinks or fountains too long, but she never says a word. And me? When I wash my hands, sometimes the water lingers a second too long on my skin. Thick, warm, alive. And I hear him whisper, "You let go, but I'll wait. I'll wait for the day you need me again." If you ever get handed a job with guidelines instead of rules, run. Because the old man of the sea doesn't care about your paycheck. He just wants to be held until you break.